Now, Abraham is an example of a priest. Abraham is the father of faith. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, Abraham married Sarah. Then he loved Sarah with all his heart. He loved Sarah with everything he has. But it happened to be that Sarah was barren. Sarah was barren. And after some time, Sarah said, okay, maybe you should just go into my servant. Maybe if you impregnate my servant, God will have mercy on me. So Abraham went into Hagar, and Hagar gave birth to a son. You see, when you love a person, if you are not careful, you will do a lot of things. Are you there? Even when you know that it is wrong, you will do a lot of things without checking. So it was because of the love that Abraham had for Sarah. That was why he agreed, he agreed to what Sarah was saying. Are you getting what I'm saying? He agreed. Go into my servant. Maybe God will just have mercy, at least when she's pregnant. And Abraham yielded to that. Abraham was not even thinking of the consequence. You see, when you love a person, there are many things the person will ask you to do. And you will do it without even thinking of the consequence that that action may have. So Abraham just followed the advice of Sarah because of his love for her, not minding the consequence of the action. Are you there? Under this episode, we'll be looking at handling losses. Handling losses. See, as we begin to engage in priesthood, there are things that will happen to us. Of course, it looks like they are not supposed to happen, but if we study the history, biblical history, we will find similar things happening to others. Are you there? There are times as a priest engaging in priesthood that you will lose some things. Things that are dear to you. Now, these losses that you will now experience is not to show that you are not following God. It's not to prove that you have turned your back on God. It's not to show that you have left God. Those losses, are you there, is what God can use, are you there, to help you know you. Because you see, the Bible says all things work together for good to them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. So sometimes, you see, the devil does many things, but he cannot control them. So when the devil comes around us and he does something, God knows how to use that thing, how to turn it for our good. So what I'm trying to say is, as you begin to engage in priesthood, it does not mean that everything will go the way you planned. No. There are times that you will experience losses. Things that people can see as losses. There are times you have that experience. Adam and Eve, they got to a point in their life where they experienced a great loss. It's a terrible thing for parents to bury their children. It's a terrible thing. So Abel, who happened to be the second child of Adam and Eve, died before the parents. And then, imagine the pain, they have to go and bury their own children with their hands. Thank God for Seth that came later. And it was the birth of Seth that now that brought comfort to the family. Abel died, and then Cain, that is even supposed to be the one that they will be looking at as a way of comforting themselves. Cain now became a vagabond and a fugitive. So it therefore means that indirectly, two of their children died. So they gave birth to two children, and at a point in their life, they became barren. Because it is even better to die than to be a vagabond. Are you getting what I'm saying? So Adam and Eve gave birth to two sons. The first was Cain, the second was Abel. At a point, Cain killed Abel. So they had just one son, which is Cain. Are you there? So, they should be encouraged by, that one that is left. Of course, they'll scold you. You have done something wrong. Are you there? You should be disciplined. Are you there? You should pass through the necessary discipline that should be given to people who have done such such a terrible act. But it happens to be that after Abel died, Cain was not a person that can give encouragements to them, because the consequence of Cain, the consequence of that act that Cain did was what made him into a vagabond and a fugitive. And then you can't have a vagabond and a fugitive as a child and believe you have a child. It's better you don't have a child at all, because the more you think about that vagabond, that fugitive, the more your heart keeps breaking. Are you with me? So when Abel died, from the look of things, it looks as though Adam and Eve became barren, because the life of Cain was nothing to write home about. So imagine somebody that gave birth to two children, and at a point they became barren. Yet they were priests. How do I know? Have you asked yourself this question? How did Abel, how did Cain, how did two of them, how did they know that there is something called sacrifice? Because it was actually in the place of sacrifice that Cain killed Abel. So how did they know that there is something called sacrifice? It will mean that their parents, Adam and Eve, had taught them. It will mean that when their parents, when they are going to make sacrifice, they will go along with the two of them. And they have taught them the way of priesthood. That whatever you have, you must learn to sacrifice from what you have. You must learn to give to God from what you have. So that sacrifice you see them going to do, they learned it from their parents. It was Adam and Eve that taught them. So Adam and Eve, they engaged in priesthood, and they also taught their children priesthood. But unfortunately, at a point in their life, they experienced a loss. So what I'm saying is, there will be time while engaging in priesthood that certain things will happen to you that can break your heart. Your own may not necessarily be losing a person that is dear to you, but it can be losing something that is dear to you. You must prepare for it. And then what happened? Hagar gave birth. And after giving birth, Sarah was still barren. But they were in the same house. Yet, Abraham was not, do you know what happened after Hagar gave birth? You see, it was only that first attempt. Abraham went into Hagar once, and that was all. It was not like Abraham was now dodging to go to Hagar, after Hagar gave birth, Abraham was still, having something to do with her. No, it was just that once. And it was because Sarah told him to do that. That's still to show you the kind of love that Abraham has for Sarah. Abraham loved Sarah so much. So he was not going into her except for that once. And it was that once, that only contact that made Hagar pregnant. And the reason he was not going into Hagar was because of his love for Sarah. So he preferred to go into Sarah, even when he knows that nothing will come out of it. He preferred to go into Sarah than to go into Hagar, because his love was for Sarah. Sarah was his wife. And he actually went into Hagar because Sarah said it. And you get what I'm saying? Another thing to look at is this. Naturally, when men see people that, for example, if you are living in a house, if a man has two wives, there is every tendency that the one that is barren will be hated, and the one that has given birth will be loved, because men, they love children. So you that you have given birth, you will be their best, and the one that is barren will become the enemy. But for Abraham, it was not like that. Abraham loved Sarah. Even when she was barren, he loved her, to show you the magnitude of the love. If you remember what happened in the book of Samuel, in the family of Anna's family. Now you will discover that though the husband of Anna, Elkanah, though he loved Anna, but the moment the other wife began to give birth to children, the love reduced to a point that Anna was being mocked in her own house. But for Abraham, it was not so. Abraham loved Sarah with all his heart. But along the way, something happened. Remember, Abraham was a priest. Abraham was engaging in priesthood. But along the way, something happened to the one that Abraham loved. Let's check the Bible. Genesis chapter 23 from verse 1. And Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kajateba. And Sarah died in Kajateba. The same is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Can you see that? So at a point in the life of Abraham, Sarah, the wife that he loved, died. Meanwhile, to make the matter worse, at this point, Abraham had already sent Hagar away from the house, because there was a time that Hagar and her son Ishmael, they were making jest of Sarah. Oh, look at this old woman. She has not even given birth. Are you getting what I'm saying? Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, at a point, Sarah gave birth. Sarah gave birth to Isaac. Are you there? So that means they lived together for years, even after Hagar had given birth. But Abraham did not go into Hagar, except for that once. But they were living together for years. Are you getting what I'm saying? Finally, God now answered the prayer of Sarah. So Sarah gave birth to a child, Isaac. So while they were doing the naming of the child, they were rejoicing. Sarah was happy. Abraham was happy. But unfortunately, Hagar and Ishmael, they were making jest of Sarah. So to them, they were like, at this age, you are laughing. Your mate has given birth to you. They were making jest. And then because of that, Sarah told Abraham to send them away. And of course, Abraham sent them away because he did not even love Hagar in the first place. His love was for Sarah. So it now remained only Sarah and Isaac in the house. And now after some time, the Sarah that Abraham loved now died. So Abraham is now without a wife. So Abraham cried and cried and cried and cried. Are you there? He cried and cried, and yet Sarah was dead. Sarah did not come back to life. At a point after crying and crying and praying, there was nothing, when he discovered there was no response. Let's look at what he did. Verse 3. And Abraham stood up from before his dead. Are you there? Sarah was dead. He stayed where Sarah was. He stayed where the dead body was laid. He was crying and praying and crying and praying. After he did it for a long time, nothing happened. So he stood up. And Abraham stood up from before his dead and spake unto the sons of Heth, saying, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. Can you see that? After Abraham had cried and cried, had prayed, he had done all he could, nothing was happening. He now spoke to the people with him, said, please, give me a place, I need to bury my wife. Look at, just imagine that sorrow. I'm saying as a priest, there will be time that you will be sorrowful. It may not be because somebody died. It may be because you lost something that is dear to you. It can be because you actually missed an opportunity and you are wondering, with the way I'm praying, with the way I'm serving God, how am I supposed to lose this thing? Yes, it happens. It happens. But one thing is sure, because of your commitment to priesthood, whatever you lose will come back to you in 100-fold. You will get it more. You will get it, you will get it more abundantly. That's it. Because you are engaging in priesthood, there will always be restoration. It doesn't matter the gravity of the things that you have lost. You can be sure of a restoration. Now, another case study to check is King David. There was a time that David went to war and he went with his men. And before they returned to their place, they discovered that the enemy had invaded their territory. The enemy had taken their wives and the likes. Now let's read that place. Let's read in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 30 from verse 1. And it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned it with fire, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, neither great or small, but but carried them away and went on their way. Can you see that? Now they slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. So when David and his men, when they were away from home, they were actually fighting. They went to battle. When they were away from home, the enemy came to their base and took away their wives, their children. And the Bible said they did not kill any of them. They just took them. They were taken away alive because they wanted, they just wanted to get back at David. Now let's watch what happened. So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives. And David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. Can you see that? This was David, a priest, a man that understood priesthood. I hope you are aware that David dancing before the ark of God is priesthood. That's priesthood. That's priesthood. Everything you do as a priest in your ministration to God is priesthood. Everything you do as a priest in your ministration to God is priesthood. Remember that Abraham was seen as the father of faith, yet he passed through his own season. He passed through his own sorrowful season. Sorrowful season. So you need to understand this as a priest, so that you will not think that priesthood is just about laughing all the time. No, there are times that you will cry. There are times that even in priesthood, there are times that your heart will break. Yes. Are you with me? There are times that you will only have something in your mouth, but you will not have anything in your pocket. There are times like that. That the only thing you will have is utterance. But if you check your pocket, the copper will not be with you. There are times like that. Are you there? There are times that you will be, you will have a lot of utterance, but you will not even have money as much as you should. There are times like that. Are you there? We must understand all these things. It will come as you engage in priesthood. But those seasons doesn't last. They are just temporal. But we need to have this understanding so that when the season comes, it won't shake us. It won't move us. Are you there? Even in that season, we will still stand firm for the Lord. As you get what I'm saying. Now, let's read verse 7. That's the last verse. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, Ahimelech's son, I pray thee, bring me hither the ephod. And Abiathar brought hither the ephod to David. Can you see that? Now, ephod is part of the clothes that the high priest put on. As you can see it in this picture now. It is part of the clothes that the high priest put on. So apart from being worn on the body, they also use the ephod for consulting the God. Are you there? They use it to consult God. So the reason David requested for the ephod is he wanted to make inquiry from the Lord. So apart from wearing the ephod, which is done by the high priest, are you there? They also use the ephod. The ephod, you can also hold it, you can get it. Are you there? In order to make inquiry from the Lord. Are you with me? But for the high priest, he may not need to hold it because it's already part of the clothes he's putting on. So as long as the ephod is on him, all he needs is just to speak. But David was not putting on the high priest regalia. He was not putting on the complete outfit of the high priest. He was only putting on the soldier, the military wear. So, but that was why he requested for the ephod. Bring me the ephod. Are you there? And with it, he made inquiry from the Lord, should I pursue? And then if you continue that story, you'll see that the Lord told him to pursue. And when he pursued, they recovered all. So because you are engaging in priesthood, it doesn't mean you won't suffer losses. It does not mean that you will not be betrayed. Are you there? But one thing is sure. The priesthood will ensure that you recover all. Are you there? Engaging in priesthood will bring you to the point where you will experience restoration. God bless you. So David, when they returned, they saw their territory burnt with fire. They were seeing smoke everywhere. All their wives and children taken away. The Bible says David and his men, he began to cry. In this case now, there was nobody that acted strong. All of them became weak immediately. Are you there? It's a difference in if, David is the one now encouraging his men. Don't worry. The Lord will help us. Don't worry. Including the leader, all of them broke down in fear. So there was no encouragement from anybody. Nobody to encourage anybody. Even David, that should encourage them, broke down in tears. And the Bible said they cried and cried and cried to a point where they no longer have strength to cry. They no longer have strength to cry. You know what that means? There will be time in your life as a priest that certain situations will happen around you that can make you sorrowful. It can be that somebody close to you will come and betray you. Yes. And it will really make you feel sorrowful. Of course, it will not lead to the point where you will now begin to have unforgiveness. No. But certain situations, you should expect situations like that. Expect situations like that. Are you getting what I'm saying? It will make you sorrowful. It will happen. It happened to David. And it's not because David is not engaging in priesthood. No. But those are things that is bound to happen. You see, when you have the knowledge of times and seasons, you become wise. Because when those season comes, you know that this period is temporal. So you know how to act. You know how to behave. You know the things to say. You know how to please God. But many people, because they don't have the knowledge of times and seasons, they think every time is just pleasure time. Every time is laughing time. So when certain season comes to them, because of their lack of understanding, they begin to misbehave. They begin to deny God. As a priest, you need to understand that there are times that the only thing to do will be to cry. There are times like that. There are times that the best thing you need to do is just to be quiet. There are times like that. There are times as a priest that you will even be discouraged. Yes, there are times like that. Look at Abraham. As mighty as he was, he lost his dear wife. That really pained him to his bones. Look at Adam and Eve. They lost Abel, and then Cain, that they should even be looking at. Cain became a fugitive. He became a vagabond. So automatically they lost two children. He then thank God for Seth that was given birth to later. That was the one that served as, encouragement to them. You see, that you are engaging in priesthood does not mean there will not be losses. It doesn't mean you won't lose some things. It doesn't mean they will not break your heart. It doesn't mean you will not be betrayed. But the good news is that on the strength of your priesthood, you can be sure that there will always be restoration. For a priest, there is always a promise of restoration. Are you there? That's it. Restoration is sure as long as you are a priest, as long as you are engaged in priesthood. Are you getting what I'm saying? Verse 5. And David's two wives were taken captive. Ahinoam, the Jezreelites, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal, the Carmelite. And David was greatly distressed, for the people, spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his son and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Can you see that? They cried and cried to a point that they no longer have strength to cry. Now, and the people that were with him that went to fight the soldiers, they also, their wives has been taken, their sons has been taken, their daughters has been taken. So they were angry. That's why there's nobody to encourage anybody. If they get there, assuming when they returned, the family of David was untouched. Okay, David will laugh. They'll say, okay, don't worry, we'll do something. All of them, they had their wives and children taken. So everybody was affected. At a point, according to the scriptures, they were even thinking of stoning David. They wanted to kill David. They were thinking of stoning David to death because they felt is the cause. Because if they had not gone to that battle, of course they don't have the boldness to even come close. But when David saw that it had gotten to the point where even his men are even planning to kill him, the Bible says he encouraged himself in the Lord. There's a time will come that you will not get any encouragement from anybody. A time will come that even your closest friend will not have what it takes to encourage you, because at that point everybody will be facing their business. You will have to encourage yourself in the Lord. A time will come that even the people close to you, they will be tired of you. Yes, a time will come like that. A time will come that your closest men will see you as their enemy. Your closest men will begin to doubt your realness, your genuineness. Is this man that is this our discipler? Is he really sent from God like this? A time will come like that. But in such seasons, even when you see those reactions, you will need to, just like David, you will need to encourage yourself in the Lord. This is why priesthood helps you to understand times and seasons. So as those seasons comes, you know how to act. You know what to do. Are you there because you have the right knowledge? Now, under this series, we'll be looking at Joshua chapter 5 from verse 9. So under priesthood, there's a need to understand the assignments of angels. One of the things you learn in priesthood is how to relate with angels, because it is in the place of carrying out your daily activities as a priest that you will encounter angels. Many of those who enjoyed angelic ministrations, they enjoyed it because they were busy with their responsibilities as a priest. So it is as you begin to carry out your duty in priesthood that you will encounter angels, because there are times that God will want to send his angels to you for a particular uh, you know assignment to be done. And then I like you to know that there is nobody in the Bible who encountered an angel without first engaging priesthood. Are you there? There's not one. In priesthood, you'll be exposed to consecration, because the altar that you are interacting with will require that you engage in some level of consecration. So this consecration is what keeps you on the altars, because you cannot approach an altar when you are not consecrated for the altar. There's a way you live. Are you there? And there's a way you live on the altar. There's a life without altar, and there's a life on the altar. So the one that has become a priest has sentenced himself to live the life of the altar, to walk in the way of the altar. And in walking in the way of the altar, such a person will need to be consecrated for the work of the altar. That is why in the Old Testament you discover that the garment of the high priest is different. And the garment of the priest is different. So the people of the land can put on any clothes, but when you see a priest, when you see the high priest, you can always differentiate them, because they have to be consecrated for the altar. There are things that other people can do that they will not do because of their consecration. So it takes consecration to stay on the altar. It takes consecration to come to the altar. It takes consecration to engage priesthood, because the environment of priesthood is the altar. It is on the altar that you will stand to engage in priesthood. Priesthood is done on the altar. Are you getting what I'm saying? All right, let's read through the passage of the scripture. Joshua 5 from verse 9. And the Lord said unto Joshua, This day have I rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you. Wherefore the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day. Can you see that? The Lord spoke to Joshua and he said, Today I've taken away the reproach of Egypt from you. And because of that, the name of that place was called Gilgal. That means Gilgal is the place where the Lord took away the reproach of Egypt from Joshua. And then when the Lord said, you are likely to think that God is personalizing the statement to Joshua. No. That statement is for the Israelites, including Joshua. When the Israelites left Egypt, they left with a mentality that made it hard for them to believe God. A mentality that exalts their problems more than the word of God. So their parents too, because the generation that, the generation of the Israelites that Joshua led were the children of those that Moses led. So the people that Moses led died. When Moses died, that generation ended. But it happens to be that they also gave birth. So it's the children of those people that Moses led that Joshua led. So it was a generation of young people. You understand what I'm saying? So when the Lord said he has taken away the reproach of Egypt, it means it was at Gilgal that God removed the Egyptian mentality from the people. And that was why it was easy for this new generation now to serve God, because Joshua had a testimony that during his days the Israelites served God. And there was no case of the Israelites turning to idols under the leadership of Moses. So we now know the reason for that. The reason was because the Lord had already taken the reproach of Egypt from them. He had taken the mentality of Egypt from the people. So it was actually the Egyptian mentality that was at work in the fathers that made them rebel against Moses, that made them, turned leadership to something that is unbearable for Moses. Moses really suffered leading the fathers at that time because the Egyptian mentality was so strong in them. But when Joshua came up, the Lord had to intervene. And how the Lord helped Joshua is to remove the reproach of Egypt from the people, so that by the time their mentality is rightly set, it becomes easy for them to flow with Joshua. So God delivered both the led and the leader. So God removed the mentality of Egypt from Joshua, and also the mentality of Egypt from the people he's leading. So all of them are now new people. And you get what I'm saying? The transformation is not only for the leader, it's also for those that are being led. And you get what I'm saying? So when the Lord said, I've removed the reproach of Egypt from you, it's not just talking to Joshua, it's also referring to everyone under his leadership. And you get what I'm saying? Now, the reproach of Egypt also includes the beliefs of Egypt, the belief system of Egypt, the lifestyle of Egypt. There are so many of them who, by default, their parents have transferred this demonic mentality to them. So even when their parents are dead, there's still something in their mind that is making them desire Egypt. They were not there, of course. They were not there. It was their parents that served in Egypt. Are you there? But because of what their parents has told them, some of them, even while they were following Joshua, they secretly desire Egypt. They secretly admire Egypt. They wish they were in Egypt. They want to eat the cucumbers. They want to eat the food of the Egyptians. This was the reproach that God took away. That mentality, that demonic philosophy, that rebellion that entered into their blood in Egypt, that godlessness, that stubbornness, that thing that makes them to be stiff-necked. That was what the Lord removed. Are you there? And when the Lord conducted that great deliverance in the midst of the people, it becomes easy for Joshua to lead. Are you there? None of them rebelled against Joshua because the Lord has caused a transformation to circulate among the people. Are you there? So one of the things you enjoy as a priest, as you begin to engage in priesthood, is transformation. I mean general transformation. So a leader that is engaging in priesthood will save himself and the people that he is leading. So the thing that God did in this place was the feedback that Joshua got from his priesthood. Are you there? Joshua was committed to priesthood. He had learned the ways of the priest. He had learned the ways of the altar. He had learned those things from Moses. I hope you know that there was a time that Moses went to the mountain and he was there for 40 days. 40 days. And then before he came, the Egyptians, the Israelites, they had already forced Aaron to make a golden calf for them. And then before Moses stepped from the mountain, the Israelites were already worshipping the calf. If you are a student of the Bible, if you have given yourself to the study of the word, you understand what I'm saying. You see, that journey that Moses did that time, that 40 days journey, it was when he came down from the mountain that, he came with the 10 Commandments. It was not only Moses that was there. Joshua also followed him. So it was both Joshua and Moses that was there. So Joshua had already learned priesthood from Moses enough. He knows what it takes to be a priest. Because most of the things that Moses was doing at that time, he was carrying Joshua along because he knew beyond reasonable doubt that Joshua is going to be his successor. As a priest, you must also learn to train others. Either who can do the things you are doing. Priesthood will not last without successors. There must be somebody that is learning priesthood on the strength of your own consistency, on the altar. There must be somebody that is also learning the ways of the altar the same way you are doing it. Either somebody who is watching you closely to understand the things you're doing, so that when you are no longer there, the priest will not reduce. Priest will not cease in the land because you have stopped, because you are gone. That was why it was easy for Joshua to lead the people, because Moses had, equipped him with enough knowledge as regarding priesthood. All right, so let's go back to the scripture. Let's take it again from verse 9. Joshua 5 from verse 9. Joshua chapter 5 from verse 9. And the Lord said unto Joshua, This day I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off you, wherefore the name of the place is called Gilgal unto this day. And the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal and kept the Passover on the 14th day of the month at even in the plain of Jericho. So the word at even means in the evening. So when you see at even, it means in the evening. So Passover is usually done in the evening. Are you there? So this was done at even, meaning it was done in the evening. I hope you are getting that. So, and then if you look at this place, critically, all right, let's go to verse 11. There are some things I need to explain from there. Verse 11, and they did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow after the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn in the same same day. Now, what is an unleavened cake? Or some versions will say unleavened bread. So what is an unleavened cake or unleavened bread? Now, unleavened bread is that kind of bread that does not have the baking powder. The kind of bread that is baked without the addition of baking powder, without the addition of yeast. Are you getting what I'm saying? So such bread will not rise. It will just remain at the normal. Are you there? So when you hear unleavened bread, that means the bread does not have leaven. There's something they call leaven. Leaven is synonymous to baking powder. Leaven is synonymous to yeast. So unleavened bread is that bread that is void of baking powder or yeast. I hope you understand. And then what is parched corn? Parched corn is done by you get a dried corn, then you roast the corn just like you want to do popcorn, but not to it won't get to that point where you start popping the corn. You actually get popcorn by popping the corn, but this one you get dry corn, but you roast it, but not to the point of popping it. Are you getting what I'm saying? So when they get dry corn, they roast it. Are you there? So roasting dry corn is what gives the parched corn. Are you there? Please take note of that. So this is what they eat during this period. Are you there? Meaning that there's a level of discipline in the things they eat. Because obviously, if you are eating unleavened bread, you can't really get pleasure from it. Are you there? The taste may not be as pleasing as when you are eating the normal bread. Are you getting what I'm saying? So when you hear unleavened bread, parched corn, just know that they are eating something that is not really pleasurable. Is a level of sacrifice. Are you getting what I'm saying? It's a level of sacrifice because there's no pleasure there. Are you with me? Now, the old corn that was mentioned in that verse of the scripture is not necessarily referring to maize. Are you there? It's referring to wheat and barley. Are you there? That's the produce that came from Canaan. So when they say old corn, they are referring to the produce that came from Canaan. Wheat and barley and then some other things too. Are you getting what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily corn as in maize. No. Are you getting what I'm saying? All right. Let's continue with that. Let's read verse 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him. Now, over against means a man was standing opposite. Are you there? And they could see the man face to face. Let's go to verse 14 because we have read this. Verse 14, and he said, Nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? Can you see that? The moment Joshua knew that he was the captain of the host of heaven, he bowed to his knees. He fell to the ground. Why? Because he knew that he understood on the strength of his experience in priesthood that anytime such a personality comes to earth, it will mean that there is a message from the Lord for his people. There are certain messages that when God wants to pass it to the people, at that time, he comes, either he sends it through his angel. Of course, he can speak to the prophets, can speak to the leaders, but there are certain messages that God deliberately sends through his angels. Just like the angel of, Angel Gabriel appeared to Mary to announce the birth of Jesus. Are you there? And some angels to appear to certain people in the Bible to give certain announcement. Are you there? Zacharias was, burning incense in the temple, and an angel came to him. So there are certain messages that God will send directly through his angels. Are you getting what I'm saying? So the moment Joshua heard that this is the angel of the Lord, the commander of the host of heaven, he bowed down and said, "What is there any message?" And he knew that the angel cannot come without a message, because God will not do anything without a reason. Are you getting what I'm saying? So the knowledge came by priesthood. If you have not been engaging in priesthood, even if you see an angel, you will not even know how to relate with the angel. You won't know how to show honor. Are you there? So Joshua bowed before the angel. Joshua is not worshiping the angel. But one thing you must understand is, see, by priesthood, you know that the messenger is representing the sender. The messenger is one with the message. For example, if God gives you his word to a person, are you there? That, because you are carrying his word, at that point you are equal to the word. And because you are carrying the word, at that point you carry the identity of the owner of that word. So Joshua bowing to that angel is not a worship to the angel, it's a worship to the God who has sent the angel. Because at that point, by priesthood, Joshua understands that the messenger is one with the message. So whatever honor you give to the messenger, you are actually giving to the one who has sent the messenger. Are you getting what I'm saying? Now, verse 15, which is the last verse I'll be reading for this teaching. And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, "Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thou standest is holy." And Joshua did so. Now the question is, what makes that place holy? Because the place the angel was standing was actually where the people have treaded many times. It was not like it's a new environment that they have not nobody have stepped upon. Of course, the armies, they have passed through that place. The soldiers have, they have stepped upon that place. But why is the angel saying this land where you are standing is a holy land? What makes that place holy? Are you there? What actually makes it holy is the presence of God. The presence of God that is circulating around that environment, because the angel of the Lord was there. Are you there? For example, if an angel of the Lord comes to, maybe you are in the sitting room alone in the midnight, and then an angel of the Lord appears in your sitting room. Are you there? The angel can order you to do the same thing. And then you'll be surprised when you hear the angel say, "This place where you are is a holy place." Are you getting what I'm saying? And you will now be wondering, which place? Is it not where my children and my wife and then my friends, brethren in fellowship, where they have, stayed, where some of them even slept on the place? Are you there? And you are now wondering, what has made this place holy? The sanctification now is in the presence. So the angel that came actually, was sent from the presence. Are you there? So the angel that is sent from the presence will carry the presence. And wherever the angel steps, the presence of the Lord will saturate in that place. So it is that presence that is emanating from that angel that will saturate that environment. Are you there? So even if the angel is standing on your chair, at that point, that chair is a holy place. So you may be ordered to put off your sandals. Are you getting what I'm saying? So we need to look at that verse again. And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, "Loose thy shoe from off thy foot. The place where thou standest is holy." And Joshua did so. Now, because that place is holy, what did the angel now say? He now said, "Remove your sandals from your foot." Are you there? So it's not literal. If you want to interpret that, it's not literal. To remove your sandal off your shoe now means to sanctify yourself. If you are in a holy place, you need sanctification, so that you can Sanctification is the consecration for holiness. That's just it. So, because that place is now holy, are you there? Joshua will need to sanctify himself. Why? To consecrate himself for holiness. Are you getting what I'm saying? So, sanctification is the consecration for holiness. I hope you get that. So, sanctification is the consecration for holiness. And then, to add to that, when you begin to engage in priesthood, are you there? This instruction that the angel gave to Joshua would also be given to you. This same instruction will be directed to you. Every priest must learn how to put off their sandals, because the altar of the Lord is an holy altar. And that's where you engage in priesthood. So you can't even engage in priesthood if your sandal is on. You have to put off your sandals. Are you there? Maybe if there's something you are doing and then you don't want to let go of it, it's bad, but then you feel you cannot do without it. Well, you can't, if that is your case, then you cannot engage in priesthood, because you must put off your sandals. You must separate yourself from that filthiness. You can't say you are smoking and then you are, no. You have to stop that. Smoking can be your own sandal. You need to put it off. Are you there? Stealing can be a sandal to someone. You will need to put off that sandal, because the business of the altar is a holy business. So, and that ground is a holy ground. The altar is a holy altar. So you need to be sanctified for you to be consecrated to work on the altar. Are you getting what I'm saying? So that's it. So if you are a priest, you will definitely be familiar with this instruction, because you cannot engage in priesthood without receiving this instruction. It is either it comes from an angel of the Lord, it comes from the word of the Lord as you read the scriptures, or it comes directly from the Lord himself. There will always be, as a matter of fact, you will always receive that instruction. Put off your sandals. See, the first instruction God gives to you before you will start engaging in priesthood is put off your sandals. Because if your sandal is still on, priesthood is not on. The proof that priesthood has not started is that your sandal is still on. You must put off your sandals. That's the sign to show that you are now engaging in priesthood. Are you with me? God bless you. Now let's continue to verse 12. And the manna ceased on the morrow, after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Can you see that? I think I need to read this place again. And the manna ceased on the morrow, after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan that year. Are you saying that? So this particular year, they entered fully into Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. So it was this particular year that they began to taste the milk. Of course, in the time of Moses, it was like a promise. You are going to a land filled with milk and honey. But most of them, they did not taste it. Moses did not taste the milk, he did not taste the honey. Even the generation that Moses led did not taste the milk, they did not taste the honey. It was their offspring that Joshua led. So it was their children that actually tasted that milk and honey. So this is what the Bible is trying to say here. So at a point, manna ceased. So it will be good to understand that manna did not stop under the leadership of Moses. Are you there? So from here we got to know that even when Joshua came up to lead, are you there? Under the leadership of Joshua, people were still eating manna. It was at this point that manna finally stopped. So the Israelites, they ate manna until a certain period under the leadership of Joshua. Are you getting it? All right. Let's continue. Verse 13. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him, with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us, or for our adversary. Now, the man that Joshua saw with the sword standing afar off, are you there, was an angel. Was an angel of the Lord. See, this is one thing to note. You see, you are more guarded spiritually than you are guarded physically. As a matter of fact, the reason you are physically protected is because of the spiritual security around you. It's because of the security system that are in place spiritually over your life. What am I trying to say? You see, the host of armies, the host of soldiers that Joshua led, were not the only one available at that time. But if you look at the land of Israel, you will only see the soldiers and then their commanders. But if you look spiritually, there's another host of angels that is guarding them. So it was the captain, the commander of this spiritual host that is guarding the Israelite that stood at this point at this time. So it was the captain of that spiritual host assigned by God to guard the people of God that Joshua saw. And when he saw the angel, he said, "Are you for us or you are for our enemies?" So sometimes God can choose to reveal certain spiritual things to you just to give you some level of confidence. Just like what happened on the mountain with a particular prophet in the Bible. When the soldiers of 50 came and then to arrest the prophet. And then the son of the prophet was scared. And the prophet prayed to God. He said, "Lord, open his eyes. Let him know that the spiritual security system that is working for us, the system that is in place for our safety spiritually is greater than these people." And when his eyes was opened, he saw a host of angels surrounding them with chariots of fire. So when he saw that, he knew, okay, they are saved. Are you there? You will not be sure of safety until your eyes is open to see the spiritual security system that is put in place to ensure that you are safe. Are you getting what I'm saying? So your safety is not just in the confessions you make. It's in the things that God opens your eyes to see. You must see. Are you there? To build confidence. You must see to gain confidence. Are you getting what I'm saying? So now, if you read this place, if you are not carefully guided, you may come with a conclusion of, okay, maybe you should not be putting on sandals. Are you there? No, that's not what the emphasis is laid on. Not putting on sandals, the put off your shoes there is a metaphor representing something, a message that God is trying to pass across to his servant. Put off your shoe. Now look at that. Put off your sandals. Now what do we use sandals for? Sandals is used for walking around. Are you there? So, when you want to go out, you put on your sandals. Are you there? And then as long as you are putting on your sandals, you discover that your leg will not be dirty. Your leg will be clean, yet you have stepped different places. So the question is, which part of your body is now taking is receiving those dirty things? And even sometimes you step on a lot of filthy things, but your leg remains clean because your sandals receive it. So even, so it therefore means that the reason your leg is clean is because your sandal is paying the price. So if your leg is clean, then you must know that your sandal is definitely dirty. Are you there? So if the angel says remove your sandal, what is it saying? It's saying separate yourself from dirtiness. Separate yourself from filthiness. Separate yourself from worldliness. Separate yourself from sin. Sanctify yourself. So removing the sandals is not physical act. It has to do with sanctification, separation. Are you getting what I'm saying? That's the emphasis. Are you with me? So God bless you.